Along a lonely stretch of Victoria Pass, a young girl met a violent end. A tragedy that would echo through local history and folklore for generations. This is her story. Caroline James was born in Liverpool in 1827 into a penal colony not yet 40 years old. Her father, William, originally from Worcester in England, was sentenced to 7 years transportation at age 26 for stealing a horse. Along with 301 other convicts, he endured a 208-day voyage aboard the Convict ship Bering, arriving in 1819. A year later, William gained permission to marry Mary Hopkins, herself born in Parramatta's St John's Church in 1797 to convict parents. By 1829, with 5 children in tow, the family drifted to the Blue Mountainsʼ when, in 1831, William built a small slab hut by Cox's Road at 20 Mile Hollow. Why they left the colony's outskirts for an isolated clearing in the mountains we'll never know. The old road gang huts were gone, the land lay unused, so they simply occupied it. Cox's Road was little more than a dirt track, but travellers passed constantly over the mountains. With Victoria Pass on its western side nearing completion, traffic was only set to increase. Caroline, third eldest, was about 4 when her parents established not just a home, but a rudimentary inn. It's believed William and Mary quietly sold liquor to passing travellers, a sly grog operation supplementing their income. Then came Thomas Pembroke, an Irish emancipist granted 2 acres in 1831 by Governor Darling, land that overlapped William's informal claim. Pembroke intended to build a legitimate inn where none yet stood in the mid-mountains. With help from his influential father-in-law, Pierce Collits of the Golden Fleece Inn at Hartley, he built a 9-bedroom establishment. Tension simmered quickly. Pembroke disliked a grubby inn and rogue grog shop beside his new respectable business. William resented his land squat encroached upon. Their disputes became a constant presence at 20 Mile Hollow, and in 1834, Pembroke was granted a licence for his inn, which today forms part of Woodford Academy. In 1835, tragedy struck. Caroline's mum Mary was found hanging from the rafters of the family home, discovered by one of her brothers. Some say a combination of alcohol and grief drove her to take her own life. Others, including the courts, suspected William. Watch my video on the Woodford Academy for more on that. William was convicted of murder and sentenced to hang in Bathurst, though he was instead sent to a prison hulk on Sydney Harbour. The children were left to fend for themselves, tainted with scandal and tragedy, and neighbour Thomas Pembroke wanted nothing to do with them, unless he was paid. The orphan children were split up. It's unknown where the boys ended up, but Caroline and her younger sister Maria, around 9 and 7, were sent west to work at the Collits Golden Fleece Inn in Hartley Vale. It was here that Caroline caught the eye of William, one of Pierce Collits' 13 children. William was known to be the black sheep of the family. In 1839, Pierce publicly disowned him in the Australian newspaper, declaring his son an idiot and refusing responsibility for his debts. Pretty harsh. In early 1840, the sisters met an apparent friend of William's, a 28-year-old Irish-born ex-convict named John Walsh, a bloke that seduced Caroline, who was just 13 years old. Walsh also had his way with her younger sister Maria, aged 11. Shocking to us today, but the age of consent in those days was 12. Later that year, Caroline married William Collits and settled in the Vale of Clwyd, near the family inn. Maria married Walsh the following year. Caroline and William's marriage wasn't picture perfect. William supposedly had a nervous and weak disposition. Or as his dad Pierce put it, he wasn't of sound mind. William was in possession of property assets and a considerable number of cattle. And when he offered 5 head of cattle to John and Mary, it said that Caroline turned on him. Barely a year after Caroline and William's marriage, she upped and left him, moving in with her sister and John Walsh at Blackheath Scotch Thistle, also known as Gardiner's Inn. Supposedly Caroline showed her affections to John, and in the newspapers at a later date, the sisters were branded as being loose and abandoned characters. Walsh himself had a bit of a history. Aside from being charged several times for drunkenness, he was also tried for something a lot more serious. The first was around 1836 for the bludgeoning murder of a man, of which he was acquitted. In 1839, the year before he met Caroline and Mary, he was again tried for bludgeoning a woman and her young son. Yet again, he was acquitted. William, a bit of a drunk himself, attempted reconciliation with Caroline, but things got heated when she threw him out and hot-tempered Walsh ended up beating him. Raising his fist was common in his household, it seemed, as Caroline copped it when Walsh got on the terps. Much like his father, William put his own ad in the newspaper, cautioning the public of harbouring his wife Caroline, or giving her credit. The owner of Scotch Thistle Inn, Andrew Gardner, is said to have spoken to William Collits, telling him to stay with him, Maria and Caroline, perhaps to try mediating the situation. Things must have smoothed out as Caroline and William were back together, and she was prepared to move back to their home. It was Monday late afternoon and John Walsh was settled in at the Coach and Horses Inn, a few drinks already under his skin. Located at the bottom of Victoria Pass, it was one of the busiest coaching stops on the road, owned by someone they all knew, named Joseph Jaggers. You may recognise this place from my Berghoff's Pass video. William and Caroline turned up and joined Walsh at the inn. Despite Walsh already a little drunk, the vibe seemed okay between them all. Caroline sipped on a lemon syrup, William had a brandy and Walsh knocked back another few brandies himself. Darkness had already settled in, and once done, they all left and began walking up Victoria Pass to Gardiner's Inn to meet up with Maria. Bear in mind, this would have been a 2-hour walk. Soon after leaving the inn, William and Caroline began arguing. Walsh grabbed Caroline's arm and told her to come home with him, saying, "While ever I have a home, you shall have one too, and while I have a shilling, you shall have half of it." He then turned to William and smacked him to the ground. Walsh then grabbed a rock and went for William again, but Caroline clutched his arms and shouted to William, "Run, run, he has got a stone, and he will murder you." William did exactly that, and bolted up the pass towards Blackheath, Walsh struggling to keep up due to being plastered. Alone with Caroline, Walsh's blood was now boiling. William reached Gardiner's Inn and went to bed in his room. A few hours later, Walsh returned, looking a little different to earlier that evening. Donned in a striped shirt, the kind Convict wore. No pants, no shoes and no hat. William asked where his wife Caroline was. Walsh said he and Caroline were attacked by 5 men, including the son of innkeeper Joseph Jaggers. Walsh said he was smacked in the face with a pistol and forced to strip naked, running away and leaving Caroline alone with these motley men. He said he stopped at a box where soldiers were stationed, borrowing a government shirt. Their conversation was left at that, and they just went to sleep, nothing reported to the authorities. Next morning, mail carrier Matthew Wall was on his coach run from Hartley to Penrith. On his drive up Victoria Pass, he suddenly stopped when he noticed men's clothing strewn on the roadside. Trousers, shirt, waistcoat and boots, plus a woman's shawl. Puzzled, he scanned the road and then spotted something partially hidden in the scrub. A young woman's body, someone he'd known for a while now, Caroline Collits. A bloodied stone strewn with hair lay nearby. Caroline's head bludgeoned, evidence of rape, and a trail of blood from where she'd been killed and dragged. He picked up the clothes and put it into his carriage. Along the road, he came across Walsh and William, who'd got up to go looking for Caroline. Matthew asked William when he'd last seen Caroline, so he explained the previous evening when Walsh attacked him. Matthew turned to Walsh and said, "That man murdered her," then showed William the clothes he'd picked up near Caroline's body, including her shawl. He ran to where he could see two soldiers from the nearby stockade guarding Caroline's body on the ground. A constable arrived to charge Walsh, who protested his innocence and repeated his story about being attacked. The mail carrier drove them all down to the inn. Walsh approached Jacob's son and accused him of knocking him down with a pistol and taking Caroline. The son denied it, his father also saying he was at the inn all night, as did another witness. Walsh was arrested for murder. His trial took place at Bathurst Court on 31 March 1836. He pleaded not guilty, but multiple people and their accounts eventually led to a guilty verdict and death by hanging. Walsh was detained for a month in Bathurst jail, awaiting his execution, and continued to declare that he was as innocent as the child I am born, or that or any other murder. The end of that statement makes you think about the 3 previous murders he was acquitted of. He may have escaped a guilty verdict for those crimes, but the noose was awaiting him for this one. On 3rd of May 1842, John Walsh was hanged for Caroline Collits' murder. Local folklore will tell you that Caroline never left Victoria Pass. Accounts of coach drivers in the 1850s mention seeing an apparition as they used the pass. Drivers today even claim they've seen her too. The girl in black, a shadowy figure crossing the road or beckoning for help, only to vanish into the darkness. Poet Henry Lawson, a teenager at the time, was living in Mount Victoria with his dad some 40 years after Caroline's murder. Henry has his own personal account, writing a poem called The Ghost at the Second Bridge in 1891. Read the full poem in the video description. Caroline is believed to lie in an unmarked grave in Hartley Vale Cemetery, where the Collits family plot lays, close to Collits Inn. Unmarked, perhaps, to spare a family name already burdened by scandal. Her story is one small thread in a bigger tapestry, woven into some brutal realities of early colonial Australia, where survival was uncertain, justice imperfect, and reputation fragile. Caroline's tragic life will forever be tied to the folklore of this region.